Coming to you from the Windy City. Welcome to Let's Talk Shop, a podcast about all things cloud and enterprise tech. Listen to insights and guest interviews with IT thought leaders and professionals. Now, here's your host, Elias Kanaser.
Sachin, welcome back to the show. How have you been? It's been a while.
It's great to be back. And, Next is just so amazing. So excited to come here and have a chance to talk to you more about it.
Oh, I love it. So you just walked off of the stage. Before I ask you about your session was on top 10 innovations, but tell me a little bit about Next. I know, been talking to some friends that are there. There's very good energy. Everybody's excited. It feels like Next gets bigger and bigger every year. Am I overstepping?
You're not at all. And I think the innovation I think that we're bringing to the market to really help our customers, but then all the customer showcases, McDonald's talking about Google distributed cloud in every single store in the keynote, and then key partners. You have Jensen, his video talking about how we're bringing Gemini on-premise with Google distributed cloud. It's just amazing. All the customer excitement, the partners that we're working with, and the tremendous innovation that the teams are able to bring. It makes the team super proud.
So the McDonald's doing GDC at every location hits home for me because of, how involved I am with my dad's stuff. I'm going to ask you about that later. We're definitely going to talk about NVIDIA. NVIDIA is the talk of the town, but you just walked off of stage. You had a session, if I'm not mistaken, on top 10 innovations.
Yeah.
If you were to summarize this whole session in, I don't know, a minute or two, what was in the session?
When customers are looking to adopt AI, they're looking at how can they optimize for performance, how can they securely connect all of their users, their data, and their models, how can they optimize for cost, and then in some cases they can't do AI in the cloud, they must bring it on-prem. So it's really about how can we, through these 10 innovations, help customers ensure that they're getting all of those things, securely connecting, they're optimizing for cost and for performance, and they're able to bring AI anywhere. Talked about a ton of innovation, starting from what we're doing with our global network. And in addition, sometimes, people overlook what they need to do with storage in order to get the best out of AI. And then finally, what we're doing with Google Distributed Cloud.
Oh, that's a big session. So I don't know which way I want to take this. I want to push back a little bit on AI because I feel like we've had AI overload. Everywhere I turn, everything has become AI. And when I take a step back and I realistically look at what the enterprise is focused on or what they should be focused on, I keep looking and I'm like, I can't find a good use case for AI in the enterprise today. Right. And I keep advising customers, I'm like, go back to focusing on cloud, on your infrastructure, on being ready for when AI really comes to the enterprise, you're in a good position, but focus on multi-cloud and hybrid cloud and all of these things to be ready for AI. So my question to you is, and I know you represent Google, but we're going to talk as friends here on the show. Let's talk shop, right? How realistic is AI in the enterprise? Or is it just for the Googles of the world, the Microsoft, the Amazons, the Salesforces, anyone who's got a software that's bringing AI, but it hasn't really adopted in the enterprise? Am I wrong? Am I off? What do you think?
So, to be honest, I have a very different perspective on this. And so when you look at what we've announced at Next and almost the hundreds of customers who are already, and these are enterprise customers, who are already using AI to solve all kinds of problems, how to improve the access to knowledge within their enterprise, how to optimize certain functions, how to improve security. You're seeing it all over the place. In fact, one of the partners we're working with closely to offer secure, highly compliant generative AI capabilities through agentic AI is ServiceNow. And so ServiceNow, think of all of the work that they do in the IT service management and the entire workflow. And if you can now get access to all of their data and converse with that through an agent, how quickly you can solve problems, solve tickets, move processes forward. Just one example of an enterprise company offering services to their end enterprise customers, leveraging agentic AI. So this is happening across the board. It's happening globally. In fact, I'm actually surprised at how quickly things have moved from large-scale training. You always hear about the big training players, to all the enterprises who are starting to build applications, assistants, and agents leveraging generative AI.
So let me push back a little bit on you. So the example you gave was ServiceNow. In my mind, that's still like a Salesforce. That's still like a Google. It's kind of like we're bringing AI to the tools, whether it's security or it's still the tools that are, but where's the use case? So if you were to think across industries, does any specific use case come to mind that has a direct business impact as opposed to the tools that I use impact, if that makes any sense?
I mean, there is direct business impact in many different ways. And I want to push a little bit on the tools, because there's a tool that we offer directly. Okay. And I love your input on this too. We have a tool directly called Agent Space. And in Agent Space, we actually give you pre-built agents that you can use. Okay. One example of this is enterprise search. And enterprise search it's multi-turn that you would expect. It's multimodal. It's grounded in the enterprise data. And so what we find is, for example, in financial services customers, they want to be able to use this for querying any kind of relationship with a client or what's happening in the markets, and do it so in a way where not just a few handful of analysts can get access to this, but thousands of people can very simply use search capability in order to find things much more quickly. There's some reports on the average employee has to look at like 8 or 9 things before they can actually get to an answer. And so how do we use search capabilities with your data in order to move more quickly? Now, that search, why is it generative AI-based search? Well, the way you interact with it, right? You want to be able to ask questions in natural language. You want to make sure that if it gives you a set of results, if you need a summary of that, you can get that. You want multimodal output. I want that in a table. Move that more quickly for me. These are all, they sound super simple because ironically, I think we're getting access to these even as consumers, and we start using this technology, and enterprises are gaining benefits from similar technology.
Do you feel that, for AI to truly become, to be everywhere, are we missing certain components like the autonomous driving, like the robotics that we keep hearing about? Do we need that missing hardware component to kind of complement what we're doing with software? Or do you feel like AI is everywhere today?
I'm going to talk a little bit about that from maybe some specific examples that I see, right? So we work very closely with manufacturing companies in many different ways. So they're looking at how can we use vision detection to, for example, on the production line, detect faults and automatically, correct for those or optimize efficiency of the production line. What happens there is there's a ton of data that's generated locally. You need to be able to process it very quickly. You need to go take action. These manufacturing facilities also tend to have, let's call, like the small vehicles that are moving around. They also are generating data. You need to make sure that you can respond very quickly. If you need to re-optimize their paths and their flows, again, lots of opportunity there in overall manufacturing operations. And so that's an example where there's a combination of hardware components with software layers, with some AI, which is, let's call it inferencing capability on premise.
Okay.
But you may have, let's say, 10 manufacturing facilities, and you can use the cloud to feed all of that data centrally to train your model or fine-tune it to understand how all of your facilities can run more efficiently. You see what I'm saying? So there's a combination of hardware and software, but also software that is perhaps on-prem in a hybrid fashion and software that's in the public cloud, all working in harmony in order to get you the best outcomes that you're looking for.
Okay. So you've mentioned on-prem a few times now, and you've piqued my interest since the first time you said it. So how do you bring all of AI on premises? Like how do you put it on a GDC? Is it a subset? Is it just the inference? Is it a reduced large language model? Like how does it happen on premises?
Yeah. So if you want to deliver AI in the cloud or on-prem, like the building blocks, you have to consider GPU, TPU hardware, right? Those systems. On top of that, you need your operating system, your Kubernetes layer, that is managed. On top of that, you need storage, networking, other services. And then you need your Vertex AI platform to do any sort of ML operations, manage the entire lifecycle of AI. You might also need AlloyDB or some sort of database that can be your vector database of choice. You might need other ISVs or open source software components that you need to pull together. And what we do with our cloud is obviously all of those things are offered as a service to you in our public cloud regions. If you can't consume it in our cloud because sovereignty, regulations, whatever the reason is, or manufacturing, where it could be latency, that you must keep this on-prem to react quickly, in that case, we offer Google Distributed Cloud, which allows you to take, either from us or directly, you can get an NVIDIA system, HGX, DGX system. We'll provide Kubernetes, we'll provide the software layer on top. If you want, you can run our database, you can run different services on it. But the big new thing is, if you were trying to do this on-prem until now, your only option in terms of the model you could bring in were open source models like Llama. There was you can't get like a frontier model from one of the leading players to run on-prem for various reasons, which are primarily around securing the model. We've now partnered with NVIDIA to go figure out how we can create a complete confidential environment for the model on-prem, which enables us to bring our latest Gemini models, the thinking models, the Flash models, the Pro models, all the various models on-premise for the customer. So now, going back to my example where maybe you're doing some things in the cloud, you're fine-tuning, bringing all the data together, then you're doing inferencing down on-site. Well, if you want to do with, not sensitive data, if you want to do some training and set up your environment in the public cloud and you want to use Gemini, great. If you want to take a Gemini, run it on-prem with real data so that you can get the best model there is, you can absolutely do that. And so we're super excited about this. You think public sector, you think energy, financial sector, manufacturing, so many verticals where they keep looking at this thing and they're like, I want it. I want the platform. I can't use it. So it's almost like a tease, and that doesn't make sense. And now we're able to bring this as a managed solution on premise.
But is it just the inferencing part? Because if it's also the training, how does GDC keep up with the GPU refreshes, or does it not maybe need as much refresh on premises that it does in the public? Because all of the hyperscale, you guys are buying NVIDIA chips at a crazy rapid pace, right? So how does it get updated, or does it not need to get updated? It's the focus more is on the CPU, or am I not getting that completely?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And I think there's three things you may be trying to do. You may be trying to train your own model. We see that obviously the largest customers will want to do that. They are huge cloud customers, or they will have massive data centers of their own where they're doing it. Okay. Mm-hmm. But the vast majority of customers are either inferencing or fine-tuning and then inferencing. Fine-tuning meaning I'm taking a package model that I can get, but I feed it my own data so that it gets smarter about my environment, my code, my data, so that when I ask it questions or I do things with it or I build an agent around it, it's based on my data. And so that capability, yes, it requires GPUs, but doesn't require let's call it tens of thousands of GPUs. And so that's one part. The second part is when it's on-prem, like when you buy it in the cloud, the hardware, software, everything comes from Google.
Right.
When you buy it on-prem, some customers are telling us, hey, I'm already buying these NVIDIA systems, HGX, DGX systems. Can I just get your software stack on that so that I don't have to build each component of that using various, different sources. And instead I get a cloud experience because the cloud sets up this thing, it runs, you're ready to go. Just one other comment I'll make, by the way, is so there you can bring your own GPUs, TPUs, or GPUs actually, sorry. The other comment I'll make is in air-gapped environments where I actually need this to work, the software to work without any connectivity to the internet or the cloud. It's a very sensitive, let's call it public sector type environments, for example. we actually can bring Gemini there. So Gemini, Vertex AI, Managed Kubernetes, Alloy DB, entire stack delivered to you with no connectivity to the cloud needed. So really, I mean, honestly, bringing Gemini, Gen AI, anywhere customers need it.
Now, when you were thinking about this, the thing that was going through my mind is, hey, it would be great if it's a managed service and you're providing the hardware too. At some point, Google could be monitoring and say, hey, your hardware is now, I'm just going to make stuff up, is not running optimally. Maybe it's running at 50%. Swap out the GDC for one that has a better processor or a better GPU. And, you've kind of created a cycle where you're updating the hardware, but not at the same rapid pace, but it's still getting updated. That's just an idea that came through my mind.
Yeah, just to be fair, like we are actually monitoring the hardware. We are, managing the hardware through our partnership with NVIDIA, and obviously working closely with Dell as well. And so this isn't we have no visibility into the hardware at all. We have visibility in hardware, but you can either get that hardware from Google, or if you want to buy it yourself, you can. Yes, but once we load our software on it, we're taking everything, like the host OS and every layer of the software comes from Google.
Okay. So you're clearly excited about this. I mean, it comes through in the tone, and I can tell you're excited about this. But tell me why Google? Like, again, and I know it's a tough question to ask, but I have to ask it. How's Google different? Like, Microsoft's doing something similar, and so is AWS. How's Google different? Is it just GDC, or is there more?
So first of all, nobody is offering a frontier model on-prem. Okay. So nobody's doing that. The fact that we have Vertex AI as a leading ML platform, and we can offer Vertex AI on-prem and in the cloud, I'm not seeing something like that. Vertex AI, let me talk about agent-based search capability, works in the cloud, works on-prem, connects to your data repositories. I'm not seeing that from others. And so ton of innovation with GDC, but we spent a lot of time on GDC. The other thing customers tell us is, we talk a lot about hybrid. It's a hybrid world. It's a multi-cloud world. And so you may have your users here, your applications there, your data's here, and connecting this securely, it was always important, but it's becoming even more important. And so we introduced a solution a couple of years ago called Cross-Cloud Network. And what we're trying to do here is we have this massive Google backbone, this fantastic investment in infrastructure, in networking, fiber cables, subsea cables all over the world, reliable, high performance, low latency. And we're bringing the power of all of that to our customers. And what we're enabling is, for all of your wide area networking, WAN needs, you simply can come to Google.
So Cloud WAN.
If you like, I mean, I can sort of explain, like,
what is
Cloud WAN. And so with Cloud WAN, okay, the first thing we said is, you have an on-prem data center. You needed to connect it into Google Cloud because you want to use our cloud services. So we launched Interconnect. Okay, everybody has Interconnect, great. The next thing we said is, you now need to connect between Google and other clouds. Typically, if you have to do that, you have to put routers in the middle, you have to manage it yourself, okay? We gave you cross-cloud interconnect with SLAs, okay? Two new things that we're bringing now. One is cross-site interconnect. So you now have two sites that need to transit a backbone. You could just use our Google backbone for that, all right? The other one is you can host your SD-WAN head-end in our cloud and use something we call Premier Tier Networking. Quite simply, what that means is, if you do that, your traffic stays on the Google backbone for as long as it can before it exits out to get to your destination, so that you get the best backbone on the planet. You get the best performance, the best latency, the best scalability, the best bandwidth, and at the lowest cost. And so what's the net of this? Customers can get significantly lower latency, 35, 40% lower latency, up to that, up to 40% lower cost. And we take care of all of that complexity. Like, you don't need to worry about how this is set up. We'll help you set it up. It's backed by SLAs. I think this is game changing, and we don't see anybody else offering anything like it.
So basically replace an MPLS network completely, because now your sites are just interconnecting and using the Google backbone network to communicate with one another. So
I wasn't sure you're familiar with MPLS, but yes, MPLS is one of the leading ways to go do that. But absolutely, I came from a networking background, so I can go deep into that too.
So take out the telcos, basically, which everyone will be happy.
No. That's not exactly right. Right. So if you think about the telcos, right? So we have a great partnership with telcos, where most telcos in the world are able to operate in one or a few countries. Okay,
that's fair.
They're all trying to service multinationals. So what we're saying is, you bring your connectivity in that country for that customer into Google Cloud. And actually, with the telcos, they're very excited about this, because what they do is they create virtual super pops, because they otherwise have to build physical infrastructure to extend into other countries. What they do is they build these virtual super pops inside our backbone, and they're now able to service customers globally. So imagine, like what this opens up as a market and as a service offering for all of these telcos. And so we think there's absolutely a role for the telcos to partner with Google.
I agree. I think their role evolved, though. I think so. Them infrastructure, now they're leveraging your infrastructure.
100%, and it expands options for them as well.
Okay, so you mentioned site to site. That's interesting. What was the second thing with Cloud WAN? I'm sorry.
So it was cross. So it was interconnect, cross cloud interconnect.
Mm-hmm.
We introduced cross site. Okay. The last one was this. You have all these SD-WAN players that are out there, a software defined WAN, where all of your brand sites come in and there's a gateway head end. Mm-hmm. Typically, you place that gateway head end in your location or in a co-location.
Got it.
We host that gateway in our public cloud. Okay. Now, and then, so what you don't want is it comes into our gateway and just goes straight back out. What you want to do is it comes to the gateway, and then we keep the traffic on our backbone instead of just sending it out to the internet, on our backbone for as long as possible, and then egressing close to your brand site, so that you get the best latency, again, best performance, and the lowest cost for that traffic. That's what we call premier tier networking. Premier tier meaning, use Google backbone for as much as you can, quite simply. There is actually one other notion with Cloud WAN that I want to touch on, because what happens is, I talked about connectivity, but I didn't talk about security, right? And
I'm not ask about that.
You asked about that. Okay, so maybe I'll let you ask.
No, go ahead. You brought it up. Keep going.
Okay, so on security, what happens is, you're trying to solve for connectivity as a customer. So, before Cloud WAN, so you build these stacks in co-locations and you pin traffic together. And the reason you also do that is because you have a stack in mind. Hey, I want to use a Palo Alto firewall. This is like, I want to use things in these layers. And the cloud security options haven't been great, and you can't bring your own stack into the cloud that easily. And we said, no, enough. We are offering two things. One is we're offering the best native security capabilities through partnerships. So, for example, we work with Palo Alto Networks, give you a great cloud NGFW. It's 25 times better in terms of threat efficacy than other cloud firewalls. Okay. We also now are partnering with Infoblox to bring DNS Armor. It's a DNS security capability. So we're partnering with the best to get you the best services from Google. We also offer a capability where we can give you seamless insertion of your security provider of choice virtually throughout our backbone.
So I want to interrupt. I'm really sorry, but just because before you jump off of that. So when you say you're partnering, let's say with Infoblox and with Palo Alto, are these like a marketplace?
No.
Or is it a first-party part? These are one managed type of. Okay. These are one responsible SLAs and everything.
One-piece services, completely Google delivered, Google supported, but backed by technology or from the leading player. Okay. So we talked about Palo Alto. Let's say there's a different firewall that you want, and because that's what you've standardized on, and you want that. We can insert that into the traffic path very, very easily for you and deploy it virtually wherever you need it. So it's not if you come and use Cloud WAN, you have to use all my security. We're not saying that. If you come and use Cloud WAN, You get the best of Google security, but you can just as easily leverage the stack of your choice.
I like it. Now, security, but you are avoiding the one question I'm going to ask you, which is Google just made the biggest acquisition, I think, in Google history of a security company. I don't know if the acquisition has been closed, so I don't know if you can talk about it, but Wiz is a big deal. So does it plug a particular gap? Is it for AI purposes? Is it network security? Is it all of the above? Like, why did you pay so much for Wiz?
Yeah, so I'm closer to network security. That's not really my area, so I can't comment on more than what you saw. And of course, it's been announced; it's not closed yet. But of course, great excitement on that, and you saw that from everything that Google shared.
Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna let you go easy with this. I'll find some other Google, or I'll go find and chase for something on Wiz. You mentioned McDonald's. You mentioned GPC. That's super interesting. And it's interesting because, these McDonald's branches or these locations, they typically won't have, they're not going to have tech people there. So this thing is going to operate to a large degree autonomously. So why is McDonald's putting a GDC at every location? Like, what are they trying to accomplish?
Yeah, and they're looking to transform store operations to make sure that they're looking at delivering. I mean, McDonald's is all about delivering the best experience, the best product for their customers. And so how through improved store operations to looking at all of the processes there, considering, future AI capabilities as well. What can they do based on analytics that they're getting from each of their systems? That's what they're about. Now, as you said, though, in these stores, I think, and they have tens of thousands of these, they don't want to have complexity in operating the infrastructure. And so all of that infrastructure is centrally managed to the cloud. We do all the updates. It's a 3-server cluster. One fails, 2 continue to operate, no degradation. It's been designed so that it can also operate up to 7 days if there's no connectivity.
So it's a combination of IoT and AI on GDC. Is that fair? Like, are they leveraging sensor technology with
Exactly.
analytics for optimization purposes?
100%. Every single thing in terms of what happens at the restaurant has data, has operating controls, and all of that software can now reside on infrastructure that is modern, Kubernetes-based, and is fully managed as a cloud product.
You mentioned storage at the beginning. And storage is something I'm always interested in because, well, you host data on storage, and I think all of this is about data. So when you're looking forward, what are some of the things that get you excited? Like, is there anything from a storage perspective that's exciting? Like, we haven't had much in storage that to be excited about in a few years. Is there anything going on?
I'm glad you asked. You know why? I have to tell you, I'm most excited about the storage innovations. So let me tell you both sides, right? So one is on AI. So I think they're both related to AI. First one is about how we help you optimize for your own AI needs, training or inferencing. And 2 is how we use AI to help you manage your storage estate, okay, your data estate. So let's talk about both of those quickly. Now, how we help you with training and inferencing, what we have to understand is keeping GPUs and TPUs idle, right, is just it's a killer because it's so expensive.
Sure.
Back when they're running at 60% utilization, well, 40% of the time you're paying for them, they're doing nothing.
Right.
Many cases, they might be doing nothing because they're waiting for the data. They're waiting for the I/O to read the data.
Up, basically, is what you're saying.
Or to read it, or give you checkpoints, to write the data. They're just waiting. That's what they're busy doing instead of doing computation. And so there's 2 new innovations that we're bringing to market. One is called Anywhere Cache, where you can have a multi-region bucket. And then let's say you're in 3 or 4 different regions where you're actually doing training and you need access to that data. We will automatically, you just turn this feature on, we automatically cache up to 1 petabyte of data in each of those regions for you, significantly lowering your latency. So instead of you going to the central place or you manually having to copy that data and move it to these different regions, we just automatically cache it for you. Okay.
1 terabyte.
1 petabyte.
Petabyte.
Petabyte. Okay, 1 terabyte of data cached for you. So now, let's say you go from, I don't know, 50 milliseconds or whatever it could be, depending on how far away the other region is, you're down to 10, 20 milliseconds, something like that. Or some number of milliseconds, lower number of milliseconds there. Another technology we said is, if you really are like, hey, you're doing a lot of appends or writes and you want the best latency performance storage, we've introduced a new storage technology called rapid storage. Rapid storage is a zonal bucket, so it sits in the same zone as your GPUs or TPUs. And what we've done is we have this internal platform. It's called Colossus. It's amazing. That's what we use for Gemini training and all those things. We've exposed an interface, gRPC interface, into Colossus directly, so that you get the best performing zonal storage. To put this in perspective, we've done some testing on this. You can get like up to a 20 times improvement, or maybe, we've seen 20 times of improvement in the training performance. So another way to think about it is we can reduce idle time 20x.
Wow.
So if you were idle 40% of the time, you might see that drop to 2%, just to give you some sense of what we're doing here. And so we're taking storage bottlenecks, latency bottlenecks, throughput bottlenecks out of the equation.
I don't know how to. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. Some feedback on it from customers, because
we have
it's really changing.
Oh, we have Anthropic already, leveraging some of this technology, and I mentioned some of their performance advantages in my session as well. It's game changing. And one thing I didn't mention with networking, the other thing is when you are inferencing, you got to go send the request to different GPUs.
Right.
And we've actually enhanced our networking capabilities so that we can look at queue depth and something called KV cache in the GPUs, so that we get it to a GPU that's ready to serve, and you'll get the lowest latency and the best performance. And once again, you don't want them idle, because you don't want all the requests going to the wrong GPUs and you've got some sitting idle. That's bad experience. That's bad on cost. And so there's another inference gateway capability in networking, but I know we're talking about storage. I'll come back to storage. So storage, you heard about anywhere cache and rapid storage. Just incredible.
What about cost? What about cost optimization?
So cost optimization. You're actually,
it all comes down to cost, right?
This wasn't rehearsed, but you know exactly where I'm going next. So how can we take AI to understand your Google Cloud Storage estate and help you get better security compliance, improve cost, or just do operations? Okay. You talked about cost. And so one of the capabilities we have, for example, is AutoClass. AutoClass says, hey, if you're not accessing these objects, then move them automatically to cold. Well, if you have tens of billions of objects in like thousands of buckets, you need to sort of make sense of, hey, where should I turn on AutoClass? Is it turned on, not on? That's an opportunity for you. So what we've done is, with storage intelligence already, it gives you a complete view. Here's the regions you're in, here's the buckets you have, here's the objects you have. You can also do custom metadata, so you can say these objects are of these types. You can then zoom in and see where all of those are. So why do you do this? Well, you can say, hey, where do I have AutoClass turned on? Where is it not turned on? How can I go do that? Save on cost. You can also say, hey, I need a retention policy for these objects where, it's 7 days or whatever it is. And
right.
You can do a global set and policy change for that. You can move buckets more easily. So lots of fantastic things. And we actually work with Spotify, and I believe they're getting something like 37% cost savings by leveraging storage intelligence. So using AI to help you manage, optimize, improve security on tens of billions of objects that you might have, is just amazing. The one other thing I'll just add is, we think we can take this really far. Like I shared the vision of where we want to go. So we talk about AI agents, right? So why not have an agentic interface into your storage estate? So an example I shared earlier was, you have, you just want to detect all the objects that have human faces in them. Because, hey, you know what? My policy is I will not train on human faces. So can we apply AI to all your objects and automatically annotate and add metadata that says, hey, these objects have human faces, and then you implement a policy that says, hey, do not use these for training. Now, I know it sounds simple, but prior to these innovations,
You couldn't do that.
You couldn't do it. It just took you so long. It was error prone. You just could not do it. So storage intelligence, we're just at the beginning, but already working with customers, seeing great advantages, like I mentioned, and we think we can take this really far.
I know you're at Google Next. I know you're short on time. I know the Googlers in the background are going to kill me, but I've got just a few more questions, and I promise I'll let you go. And we'll have to do this again, in 6 months, and kind of see how some of these technologies are actually progressing, how much adoption they have, etc. But from everything you're saying, it feels to me that you're convinced that we've entered the AI era. Now, I wanted to ask you about, kind of what's going on in cloud, but I feel like everything that's going on in cloud is AI related today. So am I correct in saying that you believe we've entered the AI era?
100%. 100%. Yes.
We have the AI era is as prevalent, as impactful to our lives as the internet was.
I may be too young for that one, but just kidding. What I will say is this: look, for me, it's most important to not just be sitting in your office and thinking about this. It's really about talking to customers. And so I talk to hundreds of customers, every year, many every week. And I go on site, I visit them in their offices, I see their facilities. And based on what I hear from them, we're 100% in the AI era. Right? So it's moved very quickly from experimentation to real value generation. Of course, some customers are further ahead, and some are not quite there, and they're looking for Google to help as a leader. And through direct support through our partners, we're very excited to help them. And we have, I think, we have, I guess, maybe an advantage here, but maybe even a responsibility with the multiple decades of work we've done with AI on models, on software, on infrastructure, and really enabling the world and customers globally in what they're trying to achieve. And so just based on what I hear from customers, I am super excited. This is moving very, very quickly. I think you blink a few times and you might be left behind. And so how do we help our customers stay on top of that? That's our mission.
You talked a lot about NVIDIA. You're at Google Next. Am I missing anything? Like, is there any announcement that's coming maybe, or that we haven't talked about that is cloud and AI related that you feel we should highlight, say?
Well, I think, I'm not going to give you stuff that we haven't launched yet.
Try.
I think, where you opened, I'll just say where you opened, which is absolutely true. Every Next we feel like is getting bigger. It's not just getting bigger in terms of number of sessions, the number of customers who are coming, and number of partners, number of stories about, customers leveraging our innovation. It's just getting bigger in terms of the innovation that the teams are bringing. And so, will you keep seeing more stuff from us that's even bigger? 100%.
Pretty sure. Sachin, thank you so much for taking time. I know you're kind of on the clock at Next. Enjoy the rest of the show, and we're definitely going to have to talk again soon and see what was the impact of these announcements. A lot of times we talk right after a show, but we never kind of follow up. So I want to try to do this with Google and others, which is to follow up 6 months later and see what was the impact of those announcements. How are they translating? How are they making a difference with customers? So I'll try to see if we can figure out your calendar and maybe talk a little closer to the end of the year.
Eli, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for the opportunity, and would love to come back. Yeah.
Take care now.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.